Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Collins Semanda from Uganda, and welcome all of you to this international online seminar with the major topic to do with the post-COVID era sports in new dimensions. And I'm going to present about sport and finance, a case for Uganda. My name is Joseph Collins Semanda once again, and I currently work with Ndeje University as a senior public relations officer. But for the sports side of things, volunteer as the General Secretary of the Uganda Football Federation, and at the same time, a member of the Uganda Olympic Committee Marketing Commission. I would like to thank Savatribo Pule, Pune University, for having given me this chance to present to you about our case study as Uganda when it comes to how to go about the finances in sports. As you're all aware, the COVID-19 pandemic is all over the world, and actually it's hitting us in different ways. But of course, to be very important to understand what COVID-19 stands for. According to the World Health Organization, COVID-19 is a disease caused by a new strain of coronavirus, C standing for corona, and then V standing for virus, and then D standing for disease. Formerly, this disease was referred to as 2019 novel coronavirus, or the 2019 nCoV. This pandemic is very, very deadly, and of course, it has costed us a number of lives all over the world. It's just fortunate in Uganda, we haven't had any scenario whereby someone has died of the virus. But it's very, very important to note that Uganda confirmed this pandemic as early as March this year, in 2020. And having confirmed that the pandemic had reached Uganda, he said the president of Uganda locked down all activities, including the sports part of it, for more than 21 days to avoid the spread of the COVID-19 virus. It's also very, very important to note that because of this pandemic, the lockdown has affected us different sectors, including the sports sector. So what is the impact on the sports sector? Of course, the lockdown is something that you don't welcome as part of the activities of any country. But having had the lockdown, of course, all sport activities were closed in Uganda. All sport calendar events were cancelled, including the major events like the Olympic qualifiers, Olympic Games, and the World Cup. We had a number of athletes who are going for qualifiers for the Olympic Games, but they couldn't go to different countries because the airports were closed, and even other countries are not welcoming for such an activity because of the fact that they didn't want to have the spread of the virus. The Olympic Games was postponed next year, and also even elsewhere, like the World Cup of football in Malaysia had to be postponed. Sport administrator contracts were suspended until further notice because of the fact that federations cannot have no sources of funding, so they cannot sustain such contracts. Coaches lost their jobs. National Federations Association hit a financial snag whereby they cannot run because of the fact that they have no sources of funding. So, of course, by such an impact, of course, the financial economic impact is also bigger. And of course, here we look at the fact that during the pandemic, the sports sector has been hit financially, hence affecting the economy. The sports budget, for example, has been slashed through the National Council of Sports and the Ministry of Education and Sports, and all federations cannot get funds due to the no activities. Of course, it's difficult in this situation because even federations cannot secure sponsors or funders, but all this can always go back to the fact that it can only happen when the lockdown has stopped. It's difficult to secure funds, as I said, and if you don't secure funds, then budgets of sports families cannot have also been affected because the fact that athletes are not earning anything, they have no budget, then of course they cannot support their families. Managing sports kits, athlete diets, and equipment are also a challenge because they cannot bring them in because they have no funds, and they cannot buy new ones because they have no funds. So it is actually hit the sports sector economically and financially. So what should be done? Of course, there is need for standard operating procedures or guidelines that have to be followed by sports sector if they're going to resume again. But of course, these guidelines should be tailored to each sport, since different sports are run differently, apart from a few common procedures that cut across all sports. And I would like to thank the National Council of Sports in Uganda for the fact that they have been able to work ahead of all of us, and they have set up the general guidelines, and they have asked all sport federations to come up with their own specific guidelines that can be used when the lockdown is done, and so that they can resume sport activity. But most people have to note that as we get back to the normal after post the COVID era, financial management and planning has to be done by national federations in order to secure resources. This is very, very important because if you don't have good financial management, then you'll not be able to get back to business easily because of the fact that you have to plan and do everything. So, what is managing finances? What is involved? Of course, it's important to note that also to inform the federation, I will have to consider financial management as a strong tool of recovering from the post-COVID-19 era. They need to conceive, budget, implement, and report all activities on a regular basis. This means that they have to look at what do they want to do. They have to budget, which means they have to plan financially, and then they have to make sure that they put whatever planning into use. They have to go into action by implementation. And at the end of the day, if they've got resources, they have to report them very well and make sure that they are accountable. This means that they will have to revise their strategic plans to manage finances. Though some may not have strategic plans, but it's very important to have that as one of the objectives. And this will lead to continued income and growth of sport organizations, since funds will be managed transparently, effectively, and efficiently. What do I mean here? I mean that once a sport organization is very well organized, then you're going to find that income is going to be coming in every day, and then the organization will grow faster because of the fact there is transparency, there is efficiency, and there is effectiveness. So what needs to be done? One is, of course, to look at the fact that there is need for good financial management, whereby there is monitoring and communication, whereby the sport organization has to communicate its cash flow prudently and in accordance with the law. Because of the fact that there are a number of funds associated with this, some will be government funds, some will be private sponsored funds, and of course, that monitoring and communication is very, very key to how that money is being spent. Financial planning is also very, very key because here we're going to look at taking stock of all sport organizations' financial situation, determining its goals and objectives, and then develop strategic plans or strategies that can help to control such finances in order to achieve the organization's objectives. So financial planning is very key, and we have to look at it that way. Having done that, of course, it's also important to note that we have to go into what they call budgeting, whereby a program agrees upon the cost of distribution of its programs and services for a given period of time. Actually, if a federation or association doesn't have a good budget, then of course it's going to be hard for them to distribute resources for the programs they have, and also be able to have their services received by their respective stakeholders. Accounting for the finances is also very, very key, because if you budget and then you get the funds very well, then you should be able to track and catalog the income and expenditure. So that information is easily retrievable in future, because national federations, as you all know, are voluntary-owned federation, voluntary-run organizations, and it's very, very important to have one office replaced by another office, and they can easily track how the income came in and how it was spent. And at the end of the day, of course, it's also very, very important to evaluate and report the activities that have been done as a means to understand the cost-benefit ratio. It's very, very important to know how much came in, how was it spent, and then how do you manage to allocate more of that funding to the different resources. So in brief, of course, that is how my discussion has been, but it's very, very important to know that for Ugandans, federations, or sport organizations to run post the COVID era, it's very, very important to note that they have to be able to manage their finances very well and be able to plan for them through budgeting, account for them through accounting of the finances, and then do an evaluation to ensure that at least they see if there is a cost-benefit ratio. I'd like to say thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure presenting to you this case study, and I look forward to more opportunities from the university to ensure that at least we can keep our people informed of how we operate. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best.